Set design is cool. Set is quite literally, hands down, one of the best characters we've designed in the last like half a decade. He is incredible, like absolutely incredible. When did he come out? I need to know. Probably like 2018, right? 2019? Where is our boy Set? 2020! I'm old. Oh god, my perception of time. Oh. It's okay, King Poro. We still got a few years ahead of us before we collapse from old age. Got still a few years before we turn into a perma Yumi main. We can do this. But yes, I'd say Set is straight up one of the best characters we have added to the game in the last half decade. That said, he came out in a year of incredible characters. Like Set came out with like Yone. He came out around the same time as Silas. He came out with my perception of time is also just completely off. I was like, these characters all came out at the same time, and then it's like, oh wait, no, he literally came out 2 years after Kaisa. What am I doing? Oh, my perception of time is just I'm old. Oh man. Okay. It's fine. It's fine. But yeah, 2020 was a great year for champs. 2020 had a lot of really, really cool champs. 2018 through 2020, I think was like 2017? Yeah, I'd say like 2017 through 2020, those 3 years, man, a lot of really cool characters during those 3 years. I think the Champions team just had some just really amazing stuff going on then, for sure. Doesn't mean some of the newer characters aren't amazing as well, by the way. I'm not saying like, you know, these characters aren't cool. Like Hwei, I think, is one of like the best characters released in the last half decade. I think the Hwei team just absolutely destroyed it. This character is so cool. But yeah, that 3 year period, like 2017 to 2020, had some really cool stuff. And then the other year I think was crazy was 2013. I think 2013 was a crazy year as well. There was some really... 2013 gave us THRESH, they gave us LUCIAN, gave us YASUO, Jinx. That's cool. AATROX thematically is really cool. He did end up needing a rework. There's some cool characters in 2013. It's another crazy year. These years are like wild because you got like a champion every 2 weeks. There's so many characters that came out then. 2013 was 11 years ago. 11 years ago? Yeah. 2013 was 11 years ago, true. Yeah. Dang it. That's so long. What am I doing? So, age, when it comes to like people you work with, is always interesting to think about. So like, I'm in my early 30s right now, so I'm not super old, but I'm also not young anymore. I'm definitely middle-aged. I work with an engineer who has been making games, so I should say worked, he left a bit ago, but like, I worked with an engineer who'd been making games for longer than I've been alive, on one hand. And then another engineer I work with was in middle school when Vi came out. And it's like, on one hand, I feel very young. On the other hand, I feel very, very old. What's my favorite character design wise? I think YASUO is one of the best characters ever designed. I think YASUO is an incredible design. YASUO and THRESH, both of those characters are pretty incredible. I think those are two ones I would call it as like being really, really well designed. Really cool. You think 30 is a bit young, just not very young? Most people live up to set 80 and 90. Well, actually the average life expectancy is 75. So technically 35 is middle-aged. Think about that one. Oh boy. Wah, 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 wah. Opinion on QIYANA? QIYANA's a champion who generally has a somewhat unfair way that she kills you. And she tends to be very, very strong and high MMRs. So she's a character we tend to have to balance around the combination of frustration and challenger players. So that is the what we think about QIYANA. It's like, hey, we're gonna tune her, we're gonna buff her, or whatever, but like she tends to be tuned around challenger players and tends to be tuned around a bit around frustration as well. Some countries it's like 90 years old. Yeah, it depends on the country. 90 is like very, very old though. The average life expectancy in the United States is 76 years. Yeah, and it's been going down over the last half decade. Thank you, America, and our wonderful, wonderful healthcare system. Lamau. But yeah, the life expectancy in the US is not great compared to other first world countries. Is there a way to give QIYANA's passive AD scaling? Now it feels underwhelming. Nerf the art to compensate. I guess my question would be just like, what does that actually get her? That feels like, okay, your burst combo does slightly more damage. Like, is that actually that important? Like, if we need to buff QIYANA's damage, we can buff her damage, right? But like, when you're suggesting changes like that, I'd be like, well, that's not a very impactful change. That's just a win rate change. Kind of meaning that like, okay, we can make her do some more damage so she wins more games, which could be totally reasonable, by the way. If you're like, QIYANA doesn't do enough damage, we need more damage, great. That might be the exact way to buff her. But the thing I would always be thinking about with a change like that is like, that doesn't really change the character all that much. It just changes her win rate. And so just ask yourself is like, is that truly what you want on QIYANA? Is the exact same, but slightly stronger? And that might be exactly what you need, by the way. Doesn't mean it's a bad change. That might be exactly what QIYANA players want and need. But always ask yourself, like, is that the change? Or like, maybe she needs to be smoother in a certain way, or have some other spell be more versatile, or whatever. There's like a lot of different things you can think about. So I will say, by the way, I complain about age a lot, and I whine about age a lot on stream, because I do kind of feel old nowadays. But honestly, 30 is a great time in your life, because you are still young, you are still healthy, you still have a whole world in front of you with lots of things to do, but you're also usually in a spot where you're usually more financially stable at 30, not always the case, but it's often the case. And you are usually also more mentally stable at 30, meaning you understand yourself and people a lot better. And so I think 30 can really set you up as a person to have a lot of really great life experiences, if you think about it. That said, 30 also comes with things. I was watching PirateSoftware, and he had this quote that I thought was pretty funny, where he's like, once you hit 30, every 2 to 3 years, you get a DLC, and it's free DLC that you cannot uninstall, and it's not good. And it's like, this year my DLC was, that hurts a little bit to turn my head to the left. And this year my DLC was, my knee is a little creaky. Yeah, and so that is definitely something I felt as I've been getting, as I hit 30, was like, yeah, every year there's a little bit of, yeah. Is 30 old for a League player? Yes, it is. But it's getting less old for a League player every year. The average age of League players is going up. But I believe the average age of like many gamers, and including League players, is like early 20s. And I think League players, it's getting closer nowadays to like a little closer to mid 20s, but still might be early 20s. It's like late college students is more League players. Whereas League used to be a bit more tilted towards like 18-year-olds or so in high school and early college. Now it's tilting a bit more towards late college. I don't know the exact demographics though for League players. Yeah. Also, everybody in chat who needs some life advice from Geriatric August, the 30-year-old, clearly a geriatric. 2 things I would recommend you start thinking about immediately when you are in your 20s, like early 20s. Once you are financially, like assuming you have a job that like, you can survive off of. That's not always the case, especially in America. Like, freaking life is hard right now. But if possible, and really recognizing that it's not always possible, but if possible, starting to save some money when you can is a very good idea. It isn't always possible for everybody though. Like, for a lot of folks, like, you gotta survive, right? And then the other thing that is way more possible is making sure you exercise. One of the best things for your long-term health, happiness, sanity, well-being, especially as you get older, is exercising. And it's hard, but if you just keep doing it, that's like one of the #1 wins you can do for not just your body, but your mental health and everything else. I started exercising. I used to exercise like just by accident. But what I mean by that is like I didn't even consider it exercise, but I used to exercise every day. I was a cross-country runner in high school. I played soccer. I ran track and field. I hiked a lot in Alaska. I was a climber. And so I used to just exercise every single day because it was just fun. I'd go climb. And then I started working a lot at Riot. And I started getting some of those DLCs I talked about that make life just a bit harder and more creaky and more painful. And I stopped exercising. And that was really, really bad for my body and my mental health. And then recently, in the last few years, I started exercising again. And now I am ripped. Look at this giant muscle. But it's been really good for basically just everything. Like I injured myself when I was making JHIN. And I injured myself that like I basically couldn't turn my head to the left without pain, like extreme pain. And then I went to like doctors and they couldn't really help me. And I went to physical therapists and it made it slightly better, but only temporarily. Like none of that seemed to work. And then Cyan, my friend Cyan from the famous Yumi main who hangs out with Pole Belter. My friend Cyan, she got me into the gym. I had her as my personal trainer for a bit and completely went away. The pain in my, like doing this, don't even feel anything bad anymore. And all it took was exercising reliably for a couple months. And it was like, oh, heck, I could have not been in pain for 4 years if I just exercised. Wild. Now, of course, that doesn't always work, right? It depends on what your injuries are. But you'd be surprised at just how much just taking care of your body and working out and making sure you're breathing and sweating every once in a while can do. Yeah, so there's some life advice for you.